Hey guys, it's Jessica from Peace Love Books, and today I'm here with some love triangle recommendations for you. I am not the biggest fan of love triangles, but when they're done well, I'm obsessed. And I like it the best when you really don't know who they're gonna pick. And so I have, I think, 7 books on this list of love triangles that are all adult romances, so I'm not including like Shatter Me or The Hunger Games or Twilight or any of those. Those are all YA, and those all, you pretty much know who she's gonna pick from the start. So I have some really angsty and emotional love triangle books that I want to recommend to you, so I'm going to go ahead and get to them. The first one I have is Heartbreak Warfare by Kate Stewart and Heather Orgeron. I don't know if I say that right, but this one's military, so it has a lot of trigger warnings for PTSD, for sexual assault, for being a prisoner of war. This one's about a woman who is in the military in the beginning. She's leaving behind her husband and her child, and her husband is like, I want to say like 8 years older than her, and they met when she was 18 and got married young, and she loves her husband. He's also part of the military, but she is going on deployment to be like a medical assistant there, and so she's not actually like in active duty, but she is sent overseas to be medical. And she instantly has an attraction to this other guy who's just very playful, and he's like your typical bad boy who doesn't care about the rules and will like push your buttons and banters with her. And she is faithful to her husband, but she can't deny that she like kind of likes this guy, and she does everything in her power to just stay away from him, but he still likes to push her buttons and like has a nickname for her. And then she goes on this like visit with him to like the local town, and they are ambushed and kept prisoner together. And so she obviously has a connection with him, and when she gets home, she has to figure out what she's feeling. So this deals heavily with PTSD, and it does have a married woman, not sure if she wants to be with her husband or this other guy. Very, very, very emotional though. I couldn't put it down. It was a little slow at times. I did give this 4 out of 5 stars, but I highly recommend it because it was just one of those books where you truly didn't know what was going on in her mind, what you wanted her to do. It was just very angsty and emotional, and I would recommend it. Then we have another angsty recommendation, and that's Serenaded Heartbreak by Ella Fields, I think is her last name. It's right here. It is a romance about a girl who grew up and she fell for her brother's best friend, who is a rock star. He's just a very damaged guy. That's all I can say. He doesn't have a good home life, and he hangs out a lot at their house growing up, and he ends up saying he does have feelings for her, and then he goes off on tour with her brother, and they kind of hit it big, and he stops communicating with her. And so she decides to move on with this really sweet guy, and then the other guy keeps on coming back into the picture, and so she doesn't know what to do. She honestly can't choose, and I really appreciated her choices. She doesn't jump into things. She really thinks things through and doesn't like let her emotions get the best of her and like throw herself at one guy or the other. She does think about it. I didn't know who she was going to choose throughout the whole thing. I know who I wanted her to be with, but it was very emotional. It is definitely Knew It All because she's in college when she gets back into contact with the guy from her past, but it's definitely emotional, and I really enjoyed this one. Coming at you with a different kind of genre, these are all very different but all have love triangles, is Violent Delights by Jessica Hawkins. I've only read this first book in the series, and this is a mafia romance, and our main character is in love with this guy. Her mother though was killed when she was young, and it was by her love's brother, and actually he's back in town, and I don't remember how old she is. I want to say she's maybe 18. It's been a while since I read this, and I read it really quickly, so it's a little fuzzy in my mind. But she ends up having to do something, and at the end of this book, I don't want to spoil anything, but she's still in love with the one brother, but then she might have to be in a relationship with the other one. So that's all I can say. It's mafia, it's dark, people die, but it's good. I think Jessica Hawkins just loves love triangles because Something in the Way is also a love triangle. I've only read the first book, but there's 4, and this is about a girl who, she's young. I want to say she's like 16 when she falls for this guy working on the construction site next door, and he does his best to push her away. They end up having to go to the same camp together. I don't remember why. I read this in 2018, so it's been a while, but her sister ends up being like, hey, like, he's hot, I want to date him. So it's a love triangle between her sister, and this guy, which totally would normally bother me, but it didn't, and I loved it. I loved the whole camping aspect. This definitely ends on a cliffhanger, and it's very emotional, and I really do hate him at times because of what happens, because it's not the girl choosing, it's the guy, and she feels guilty because her sister kind of likes him, but like doesn't actually really like him. She just likes him because he's hot, when she really likes him for like an emotional connection, but she's too young. So yeah, very angsty, and I really enjoy this one as well. Of course I had to include this duet in this video, and that is the What He Doesn't Know duet. It's What He Always Knew and What He Doesn't Know. I think this is book 1 and this is book 2. There is a book 3 about the guy she doesn't choose, so don't read that synopsis yet. But this is about a girl who is married, and she is having a lot of trouble in her marriage because of infertility issues, and they don't really talk to each other, and they feel kind of like strangers. And this guy from her past comes into town, and I believe it was her brother's best friend, and she always kind of liked him. He never made a move, and now he's back as, I think, the piano teacher at the school, and she's also a teacher, and he is like, I like you and I want a chance. I will show you what it's like to be loved and cherished by a real man. And so she doesn't know whether to be with her husband, where things have been rocky, or someone she kind of always liked when she was young who's ready to show her the real deal. So very, very angsty and emotional. You literally don't know who she's gonna choose until the very end of book 2. So it's very good, and I'm pleased with her choice, even though I flip-flop back and forth the whole time about who I wanted her to choose. So good. There is cheating in here, so be wary of that, but I loved it, and I really loved book 3 as well, to see the other guy she didn't choose get a happily ever after. The next book I have is Thoughtless by S.C. Stevens. This one is a very old but very loved novel. I want to say it came out in 2013. Our main character is this girl who's dating this guy who's Australian. His name's Denny, and she ends up moving in with Denny's best friend with Denny because they need a place to stay. I believe they go to like Seattle or something. And Kellen Kyle is the best friend, and he is the lead singer of the Douchebags, which is a band, and she starts to like Kellen even though she's in love, and I think she's engaged to Denny. And so it's a love triangle. She doesn't know what to do. She doesn't know what to do. And it's so good, and it's a trilogy, and I was obsessed with it. There's a spin-off, and there's also book 1 from Kellen's point of view. It's really good. I think this one's more obvious who she's gonna choose, but I liked it. It was angsty and it was very long, but I remember I read it in college, and I remember vividly reading it on my top bunk bed in my dorm room and flying through it one night, and it was just an oldie but a goodie. And the last one I have is One True Loves by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This one I think is less romance heavy and more like women's fiction, but it does deal with the romance. It just didn't read as much like a romance, and our main character is married to the love of her life, and then he goes missing because he's like a nature photographer, and they very much are like the on-the-go couple who go and travel everywhere together, don't really settle down, and he ends up going missing in a helicopter and presumed dead. And so she moves back home, and she ends up kind of connecting with this guy from her past that I don't think she ever had a relationship with, but he always liked her, and she kind of becomes a different person, and then they get engaged, and then her husband shows up alive, and they finally found him, and so she doesn't know what to do. She's like, I'm engaged to this new guy, but my husband has come back. So this one, I think I like the least out of all of these because it's definitely reads much different than your typical romance, but I still really enjoyed it, and I think if you don't want as romance heavy of a love triangle, you would really enjoy this one. And those are my love triangle recommendations for you. Let me know down below your favorite love triangles. I would love to hear. As always, thank you so much for watching, and have a good day. Bye.